And here we go. Yep. Hey, everybody. How's everybody doing tonight? Hopefully, you're all doing good. As always, I like to start off with the ones that are working out right now, the ones that are essential and that are have to go to the workplace. Hopefully, you guys are doing good. Hopefully, everybody is being safe, taking precautions, and hopefully, everybody is doing the right thing. And just a reminder, if I know we're all adults here, and but sometimes it's good to get reminded, if you feel sick, stay home, always wash your hands thoroughly, always wash your hands before meal, after meal. And if you cough, try your best to cough on your elbow. If not, go wash your hands immediately, because that's the thing. It's all about personal hygiene right now. And, just social distance away from each other, because it's better to stay away from each other for a couple weeks than it is never to see them for a few months. So that's the first thing. And then the second part is the ones that are quarantined. Hopefully, you guys are doing some self care, enjoying your times with your loved ones, and just, resting the mind up, the body up, and just taking self care of yourself. And before you know it, the more we do all our part, the better all this will be over. I would also like to start with this video by thanking Rocio Torres now for the incredible little tripod she gave us. I would show you, but we have a Facebook Live feed going on as well. So that's we can't show you, but I want to thank her for contributing to this show. And let's see. Oh, already the first comment, Julian Garcia. What's up, bro? I'm glad you could make it today. Too bad you couldn't make it for the first part of the Raider one, but you're here for the Niner one. Scumbag. Anyway, anyway, as always, my name is Juan Rodriguez. I go by Junior, and this video is coming to you live from YouTube. And we also have a Facebook live feed if you follow the All Sports Talk page that we created here. So let's get this show started. Today is the 13th pick, and the pick originally belonged to the Colts, but just a few days ago, they made a trade with the San Francisco 49ers to trade DeForest Buckner to get the 13th pick. The Niners traded DeForest Buckner to get the 13th pick, and now the Colts get DeForest Buckner, and the 49ers now have the 13th pick. So this is going to be kind of new because I'm going to be talking about two teams tonight instead of one. But I'll explain that more as we go. But we're going to talk about the Colts today because this was originally their pick, and we're going to talk a little bit about the Niners. But the Niners will get more into detail when it's the original pick, which is 31, because we all know that they were runner-ups in the Super Bowls when they played Kansas City this year, and they lost. But they had a good season, but we'll get more to the 49ers in a bit. Today, it's about the Colts, and the Colts really I would say it was probably a disappointing season due to the fact that a lot happened last year with the Colts that not a lot of people were expecting. To start off with, Andrew Luck retired. That was kind of the big shocker. Literally 2 weeks or a week before the season started, Andrew Luck decided to walk away from football professionally. And if anybody saw his press conference, he said, throughout that he was just tired of the injuries. He was just tired of being in the physical training room. He was just tired of rehabbing and physical therapy. And you know what? You know your mind better than you do. You only know your body as well as anybody. So if he felt it was the right time to walk away, then it was the right time to walk away. So there goes, tip of the hat to Andrew Luck on an incredible career, and wish him all the best in the future. So that was the first shocker. The second one was that they initially decided to start Jacoby Brissett. He is a familiar name because a few seasons ago, he was with New England. He was a third string quarterback. Tom Brady was suspended the first 4 games. Jimmy Garoppolo then took over, and he started 3, and then Jimmy got hurt, and then they put Jacoby Brissett, and his one lone start in New England, he won, and he had a great showing, and that was enough confidence for the Colts to bring him in. So they brought him in, and unfortunately, the Colts finished 7-9, which was kind of disappointing because when you look at the roster, top to bottom, it was a really good football team. They had the best, highest pass offensive grade of the offensive line. And, they had good weapons outside. They had a good running game. They had a good tight end in Eric Ebron. I think what happened was the surprise retirement of Andrew Luck kind of threw everybody off because defensively they had, Darius Leonard, who was the defensive rookie of the year, the previous year, and he came in, he made a Pro Bowl again. The defense was good, everything was fine. It's just I think the retirement Andrew Luck just kind of shook everybody, and then when a guy retires, that's kind of not an excuse, but it does change your mentality a bit because you're thinking he's going to be there, and now all of a sudden you have to not change your game plan, but now you have to tweak offensively what kind of team you're gonna be. So they started okay. They beat the Chargers week one, but then after that it was just a roller coaster of inconsistency. It was, they looked good one week and then they looked bad the following week, and that was the story of the Colts. They just really couldn't capitalize. They really couldn't get any momentum going, and then with injuries happening with Darius Leonard and a bunch of other people, Tamba Ali was there for a bit. It was just kind of, you could tell it was just kind of over before it even started. I think the whole mindset was Luck was going to come back. He was going to come back healthier. They finally have an offensive line for him, and he just decided that enough was enough. So that was the end of that. And then, like I said, it was just inconsistency. Jacoby Brissett did not have the worst season of a quarterback, but he didn't have the best either. It was just sort of in the middle. There was really no impact there. They were really riding high that he can capture some of that New England momentum. It just didn't happen. And now here we are, a year later or one season later, here we are. They originally had the 13th pick, but they traded it for DeForest Buckner, which I thought it was a good trade. I think the 49ers really had to think about this whole trade, due to the fact that, you know, they have a lot of young studs on the defensive line. The problem was you couldn't pay everybody, so they figured why not trade the man that's going to get them the most value, and they can save a couple bucks on cap space in general. So they traded DeForest Buckner, and now he is a Colt now. So, and they were busy this offseason. They really did some good things. The first thing they did, which is kind of the significant one, they signed Philip Rivers to a 1-year deal. They're gonna go with him. They did it. They gave him a 1-year, $25 million deal. That's kind of the end of the whole Jacoby Brissett era in Indy. It's kind of over now. It's a shame, really, because he was supposed to really change the culture there. But they're gonna go with Philip Rivers, who's now a Colt, which is actually kind of happy for now that he is not with the Chargers anymore. It always seemed like he would always get the best of the Raiders, but now he's a Colt, so good luck to him and over there. And he still has weapons. He's got T.Y. Hilton. They actually signed Devin Funchess from Carolina, but that wasn't all the Colts did. They re-signed Anthony Costanzo. I think it was a good re-sign. He's still 32 years young. Not a lot of injury, and he's still, mobile enough to be a tackle in this league. And I think that was an important re-sign because they really had to look at it and say, was there going to be an offensive lineman possibly at 13 where there's value? Do we have to restart again? I think for the better time being, just get him 2 more years and find his replacement in the draft somewhere down the road. And I think that was a good re-sign. They also re-signed. They did a lot of in-house re-signings, the Colts. They also re-signed Zach Pascal, who was a undrafted wide receiver, and sure enough, he got enough playing time, and he actually looked promising next to T.Y. Hilton. Now, I mean, maybe that can be because T.Y. is T.Y., but I mean, when you have a solid two, it makes your life a little easier. They also re-signed Mo Alley Cox, the tight end from the undrafted tight end. They re-signed him, and they also re-signed, like I said, Anthony Costanzo, and then they also re-signed Chase McLaughlin. Well, that's a hard name, but he was the kicker. What a lot of people are kind of missing is that Adam Vinatieri was starting the season as the kicker for Indy, but you know he's been in the league a very long time, and I think that was it. I think this is it for him. I think he's just gonna walk away this offseason. I think he should retire soon. It's just he's been in the league now since '96. I was 5. I'm about to be 30 next year, so you can just tell like that's a really long time to be a kicker. But he had a hell of a career. Whether he retires or resigns, he's had a hell of a career. And but this McLaughlin kid, he did his thing. It just looked like Adam Vinatieri wasn't Adam Vinatieri anymore. So they bring in this young kid, and he did his thing. They re-signed him for another year, give him another shot, and see what happens. And that's about it. But as I said earlier, they also got Devin Funches from Carolina, wide receiver. I think he'll be a good fit as the number 2. Kind of give Philip a little bit more weapons. And then they also signed defensively Sheldon Day, another defensive lineman from the 49ers, who was a depth player, but depth is always important, especially down the road when injuries do happen. And then Xavier Rhodes, a longtime Minnesota corner, he is now a Colt. And TJ Carey, who started his career in Oakland, then went to Cleveland, and now he is an Indianapolis Colt. And I think this is all because they did let go of Pierre Desir. Um, I think it just wasn't working out anymore, so they wanted to bring in another guy who could probably on a cheap veteran minimum deal in TJ Carey, which is I think it was a good pickup. I like TJ. I thought he had some, there's some promise there, and he's still young. So I mean, now you have Xavier and TJ. You can always focus later on getting that true number 1. So um, that's pretty much it. And then with the Colts, with the Niners, they did this trade, you know, rather quickly. They realized that they had all these young guys on the defensive line that they're all going to get their money. I just, they want to try to get them for less, and I think that was why the trade was willing to go through so fast, was because nobody really picked up on this, and it was just one of those trades where it caught everybody, by surprise, and that was the end of it. John Lynch made the deal with Chris Ballard, who was the general manager of the Colts, and he said, "I'll give you this. You give me the 13th pick." It was a no-brainer. DeForest Buckner's a force up in the middle, and I think he'll actually open up linebackers play for the Colts next season. And the 49ers are now in a spot where they were 10 minutes away from winning the Super Bowl, but those pesky Chiefs, man, they just always seem like when they're down, they're never down for sure. They always find their way back, and that was kind of it. I mean, it was a no-brainer for the 49ers to move up. Maybe they just figured maybe they're just a couple pieces away to try to win the whole thing. The Niners really are a team where, how can I put this in a way where there's a lot of skepticism between beat reporters and just people outside looking in, where a lot of people didn't give credit to where credit was due. I mean, the Niners were just that good of a team, but a lot of people kind of like, yeah, they're okay, but they're really not the best team in the NFC, which, it's debatable. But I mean, the proof is in the pudding, man. I mean, they made it to the Super Bowl while the other teams didn't, and I think they do have some question marks that they need to fill out. But other than that, I mean, with Kyle Shanahan, running the offense, and him being an offensive-minded genius that he is, I have no reason to believe that they can probably take it all next year, or just be contending for a really long time, as long as everybody just kind of sticks together and just kind of follows through with the game plan of whatever Kyle Shanahan has to say. And that defense is going to be fine. I mean, yeah, losing to Forrest Buckner is it's tough, but they still have a lot of other defensive linemen. Now in the hold of Solomon Thomas and Arik Armstead and Joey Boza, who's you know the defensive player of the year. So I mean, they took a hit, but the talent is still there in the defensive line, and the secondary is still fine with Tar, Richard Sherman, Jimmy Ward. I mean, they're going to be fine. That whole defense is going to be fine. The linebacking core is good with Kawan Alexander, Fred Warner. They're fine. I think what it is now is just the Niners are in a position where it's really what for years I've called a luxury pick, where you're a team this good and you're in the top, 16. This is a luxury pick, meaning you can go anywhere and you can't fail. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's you're a good team that's about to get better because you're in the top 16. That's insane, but it's one of those things where it was up to John Lynch to make the call. He did, and he believed that this was the right thing to do at this time. And honestly, with the way this team's going, I mean, they can go a lot of places. I mean, I've seen mock drafts, of the 49ers up and down, and they're all over the place. It's like they have them taking a quarterback, which I thought was weird. They have them taking a wide receiver, a running back. A running back at 13 might be too high, especially in this draft class where it's kind of like, yeah, they're good, but do we really want to take the 13th pick when our running game's already good? There's linemen, but is there a tackle left? Is there a guard worth a first rounder? We don't know. They're out there. I think they're worth the look, but at 13, you're kind of thinking of it as you kind of want an impactful player that can impact the team right away. So I think with all that being said, it is now time for my prediction on who I believe the 49ers are going to choose in this mock draft. Yeah, that sound is beautiful. And let's see, here we go. With the 13th pick in the 2020 NFL Draft, the San Francisco 49ers select Javon Kinlaw, defensive tackle, South Carolina. The thing is, as I mentioned earlier, this is more of a luxury pick. And with this, you got to go, the term is BPA, which is best player available. And I think for the 49ers, this is probably the best player available at the time. They can always use another wide receiver. They can always use a running back. They can go offensive lineman. But I just think at this point, is there one of value at 13 where you can say, yeah, he's the 13th best player? And then you look ahead and you're like, well, we could have probably gotten him, could have probably gotten him. So it's better to be safe than sorry. And Javon Kinlaw, the defensive tackle to South Carolina, is some grade him as the best defensive tackle, some grade him as the second best, but either way, to get him at 13, I think John Lynch cannot he can't be upset at this, and I think it'd just be a perfect replacement for DeForest Buckner. And to give you an idea, Javon Kinlaw, he's 6'5", 315, arm length 34 and a half, hand size 10 and a quarter. So he was the Senior Bowl Defensive Player of the Week. So for those of you that might not know, Senior Bowl is where all the best seniors in college football get together and divide them into two teams, one from the north and one from the south. And they go one-on-one like it's just another game. And it's just really for general managers, scouts, and head coaches to look at the talent that's on the field and get a better idea of how they look like running through a practice in pro football. And Javon Kinlaw was the best defensive player, and that's why he won that award. And from Carla, yep, hi Carla, thank you for joining. but he was the best defensive player of the week that week. You could just see him one-on-one drills. He dominated everybody. His individual drills, he did it as fluid and quickly as anybody. And he didn't participate in the combine. He was dealing with knee pains and a little bit of an ankle issue, but I don't think that should be an issue, especially if he does get drafted by the Niners. There's depth in front of him, so there's really no need to rush him if it does continue to linger. But John Garcia, Carla, you rascal. But there's really no rush for them to rush Javon Kinlaw into the lineup. But if he feels up, hey, that's even better. Now they got the second-rated defensive tackle in this draft class, and his path to South Carolina was kind of it was a very long journey from South Carolina to the NFL. And before we even get to the NFL, or South Carolina, you really have to look back that in 2016, he didn't get any Division One scholarships. He Kinlaw, good pick, BPA. Oh, thanks, Sean. Thank you, man. I appreciate that. But in 2016, he played in Jones County Junior College, which is in South Carolina. And he didn't get one offer. He didn't get one offer, and then he just blew up there. And then he managed to play in. Finally got an offer from South Carolina. He took it. 2017. He didn't. He played in 13 games, but he didn't start in any of those because he was just coming in. He was a transfer, so he was still trying to learn the system. But even for the 13 games he did play, he did have 20 tackles and he did have 2 tackles for losses. Not impressive, but when you usually transfer from a junior college to a Division One university, it's going to be a little different pace. But that didn't really stop him because in 2017 is kind of where he made his mark, where he started all games, had or I'm sorry, 2018, that's where he started all games. He had 38 tackles, 4.5 sacks, and 9 tackles for loss. And the reason I bring up the tackles for loss because he can get behind an offensive lineman better than any defensive lineman, anybody. He can get behind any offensive lineman. He's just quick with his hands. He has great agility, great bend, and South Carolina. He played the end and interior. I think if he does get drafted by the Niners, he's going to be more inside to kind of open up the holes, kind of take the gaps for the linebackers to kind of move around, get Armstead, the one-on-ones so he can beat the tackles with the speed. But, 9 tackles for loss, 4.5 sacks in his junior year. And then his senior year, he had 35 total tackles, 6 sacks, and 6 total tackles for loss. So the reason why the total tackles for loss kind of dipped was because at that point everybody just wanted to double team him, and he still got through. And like I said, his hand placement's amazing. His bend is incredible, and his agility is just off the charts. There's really nothing bad to say about him. And then 2019, he was the first team All SEC, so he did make first team in a conference, which is all about the defense, and he was one of the better players last year. So there's really nothing much to say about this kid. He's just one of those good kids. Yeah, those injuries are kind of concerning, about his knee and about his ankle. But like I said, I think if the Niners do make this pick at 13, there's really nothing they have to really worry about. Because even if it does linger, he can take the time to come in. And like I said, this is just a luxury pick for the Niners because this is just one of those picks where you're like, oh man, lucky them, because they traded up. But other than that, that's it for this video. I will talk more about the Niners with the original pick at pick 31. The Colts was today. Tomorrow, I believe. Let me see here on my notes. Da, 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 da. Tomorrow we have, I knew that name sounded familiar. The Buccaneers. That's right. We are at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers pick. For those of you that don't know, Tom Brady just signed with Tampa Bay, so get ready for that. So Tampa Bay, that was they're kind of the story headlines of this offseason because they did sign Tom Brady, but we'll get more into them tomorrow. I do want to thank everybody that did comment today. Do we have any comments on the regular one? Anybody said anything? Anything crazy? Anything we got to know about?
No, just hi.
Oh, hi from who? From people? Ah, that's nice of them. Well, hi to you guys too. But as always, my name is Junior. We will do Tampa Bay tomorrow, and I hope to see you guys tomorrow, and you all have a wonderful night.